learning and assessment plan on Onefile is essentially a list of tasks or activities which is agreed between yourself and your assessor for you to complete. It's a custom list and it outlines the tasks which you're responsible for. In this video, I'm going to explain the process of how this works on Onefile and how you would use it. There are two separate types of tasks, and how they work are slightly differently. There is a learning activity, so this would be an activity which you would complete to learn. It might be attend a class, a workshop, or complete some independent study. And the other task is an assessment activity. The assessment activity would be where you'd be required to submit some evidence to complete that task. To access your teaching learning assessment plans, go onto your Onefile homepage and select on Plans. This would load up a page which looks a bit like this. This will show you any plans which you have which are pending. You can toggle the drop down to view any plans which have been completed. So once you've completed a plan, it will disappear from the pending view, but you can view it by selecting on completed. Teaching, learning and assessment plan is typically produced during one of your assessor visits, where the assessor will select Create Teaching, Learning and Assessment Plan. They can give the plan a title, set the date and state whether it's a face-to-face or a remote session. Optionally, they can set the next planned visit. The assessor will then discuss with you and agree tasks which are due. They can then add a task onto the plan by selecting Add Task, and they can move the view down, pick between the two types of tasks, an activity, a learning activity or an assessment. If they're selecting a learning activity, they can set the start and end date, they can give you a description of what's required, and they can attach any learning resources. If it's an assessment, they can select the primary assessment method, the start date, the end date, whether it's mapped holistically or per criteria. They can give you some instructions as to how you'd complete the assessment, attach any learning resources, and they can also select learning outcomes which they plan that evidence will cover. So for example, write up a statement about a time where you have produced some management reports. The assessor could go in there and plan, well, I think that statement would cover these KSBs. Bear in mind though, you may cover additional KSBs which can be added at a later date, and you may not cover some planned KSBs which can also be removed at a later date. This is just to say, this is the plan, this is how we intend or what we expect to cover. It can then be added to the learning assessment plan, like this. On the learning assessment plan, there's also space for feedback and comments and a note of any issues arising during the visit. Once the assessor has completed this, they will then tick to sign and send it to the learner. You'll receive a new task in your task list, and that task will say, please sign Teaching, Learning and Assessment Plan by and your assessor's name. If you then select on the task, you can review the page which looks a bit like this. However, you won't be able to edit anything. If you're happy with the Teaching, Learning and Assessment Plan, tick to sign, and I can show you the view and how it looks. So it looks like this. And what you would do is, if you're happy with it, you'd tick to sign and you'd select Accept or Agree. What would then happen is that the tasks in the task list would then be added to your task list. So it is important to sign your teaching, learning, assessment plan straight away, because you may look at your task list and think, I've only got 2 or 3 tasks, but actually one of those tasks is to sign a teaching, learning, assessment plan, and within that there's maybe 10 tasks. So it gives you your task list, it keeps it up to date and gives you an accurate representation of what tasks you've been asked to complete. If I show you this view, this is a template learning assessment plan. So depending on the delivery model, there may be certain tasks and activities which all learners on the programme are expected to complete. And there's a number of tasks here. So you can see these task lists can be somewhat lengthy. And therefore it's important to close off the teaching learning assessment plan by accepting it. And then all of these tasks, if this was assigned to you, would then be added to your task list for completion. And you'd complete those tasks by going into your task list, selecting on that task, and then if it's an assessment activity, uploading the assessment as it's shown in the upload assessments video, or by completing a journal entry to record and reflect on the training which you've completed.